It is Thursday, May the 16th, and this is WagerTalk Today. We are live every Monday through Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and archived 24/7. So smash that like button and comment below, subscribe, and hit the bell for instant alerts here on WagerTalk TV. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. He is in Las Vegas this week, and he will be joining my co-host Teddy Covers tomorrow on Friday. But I get Teddy for one more day here on Thursday, and we have a loaded show. Marco D'Angelo at the top, going to talk some baseball, but he's also a horse guy. Don't forget the Preakness is this Saturday, the second leg of the Triple Crown. So looking forward to getting some Preakness preview in a moment here from Marco D'Angelo after his baseball breakdown of his Pittsburgh Pirates and Chicago Cubs. We also have Ronald Cabang, basketball expert and database expert. Ronald's going to talk about that huge Nuggets-Wolves Game 6 tonight of the NBA playoffs, and he also handicaps the WNBA, and you might want to pay attention. He was number one last season in the WNBA, and he's already off to a 4-1-1 start this year. And we're also going to talk a little bit about his matchup sports database, which he uses for both NBA and WNBA. So stay tuned for that. Teddy's going to take a deep dive look at the NFL schedule, which just came out yesterday. Very interesting segment there and what bettors learned. And also a little big game breakdown from Teddy on Dodgers, Reds. And then, of course, we are going to finish it off with Kyle Anthony, fight expert. Kyle's going to look at a couple of the UFC matchups in Vegas for Fight Night this weekend. So lots of sports, a lot of content, a lot of free plays coming up for you here on Wager Talk today. Let's get right to it with one of the co-founders of WagerTalk.com, Marco D'Angelo. Marco, you've got your Pirates gear on. We're going to talk about the Pirates, but just be warned, Prez is in town. Lawrence is in Vegas. Although I believe you knew that.
Yes, I did, trying to avoid him as much as I can, but I'll actually be on the Strip tonight. I know Prez is in town to see a concert. I'm going to a concert myself tonight. I like my choice of music better than the Prez, as I'm seeing Pearl Jam tonight.
Good choice.
Let's talk a little MLB for today. Your Pittsburgh Pirates in Chicago at Wrigley Field against the Cubs. Right now, looking at the Wager Talk live odds screen, it's been all Pirates money this morning. The Cubs, minus 118, I'm seeing, minus 117. We're getting close to even money on Pittsburgh. Total 7.5 juice to the over. Sharp money on the Pirates. Do you agree with that move? Do you disagree? Talk to me about Pittsburgh and Chicago.
Well, Teddy, you know I'm not a homer. I go against my hometown team as much as I go with them. And this is a spot where I am going to go with them. And hence the outfit today, sporting the Pirate throwback jerseys. And this is a spot where the Pirates just have a big scheduling advantage, in my opinion, in this game. Let's start off with the fact that the Cubs are returning home from a road trip. You know how I feel about that. Teams returning home. I like to look for spots to jump in front of them. Both teams played yesterday, but there's a big difference, and both have to travel to tonight's game. Pittsburgh's traveling from Milwaukee. That's a short jaunt from Milwaukee to Chicago, where the Cubs are returning from Atlanta. Now, to make that even worse, the Pirates played an afternoon game at 1:10 Eastern yesterday. The Cubs played last night a 7:10 game. Then had to fly back home to Chicago. So another huge edge for the Pirates. They got to get into Chicago early in the evening last night, rest up for tonight's game. Now let's look at the starting pitching. And we see that the Pirates send Jared Jones to the mound. He's made 8 starts for the Pirates this year. All 8 starts, he's given up 3 runs or less. In fact, in 5 of those 8, he's given up 2 runs or less. He's pitched very well for the Pirates. On the flip side, the Cubs are going to counter with Justin Steele. Now, he made 1 start at the beginning of the season and was injured, was on the shelf for over a month, came back. In his first start back, he pitched well. But then in his second start back, which was last Saturday, and against these very same Pittsburgh Pirates, he was absolutely lit up. Gave up 3 home runs, 6 runs, and just 4 innings of work. Now he's got to come back from Saturday, pitch on Thursday against the same Pirates. I can't back him in this spot. So what I am looking at, we've got a big pitcher's edge. We've got a big scheduling advantage. I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Pirates. And since I'm making this play based so much on the 2 starting pitchers and the fact that I'm not fond of the Pirate bullpen, I'm going to make it a first 5-inning wager. Take the bullpen out of the equation. Give me the Pirates first 5 innings tonight.
So the Pirates are, I mean, all your points are 100% correct, Marco. It's just spot-wise, it stands out for Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh's 10-23 in their last 33 games, right? This is a bad baseball team again this year. They're finding ways to lose. The Cubs, they're a playoff team, man. You know, so you have a bottom feeder at a playoff team at the home of the playoff team in basically a pick-em price range. I guess my question is the price right here. If I'm taking Pittsburgh in this matchup, I want like plus 160 on the first 5, maybe plus 170. You know, they're by far the inferior team. So talk to me about that.
Well, that's why I saved a couple for the rebuttal, my friend. Because you'd come at me. First off, go back to Justin Steele for the Cubs for a second. He's faced the Pirates 6 times in his career. 2-4, and he's not a guy that's been around the league for 10 years. He's only been around a couple years. So those are, you know, recent stats, and the Pirates have been bad for a long time. So the Pirates have gotten to him. His ERA in those 6 starts, 6.91. His whip, 1.53. Those are not good numbers. Also, the Pirates, you're correct. They are bad. They're a dismal 10-19 against right-handers this year, Teddy. But guess what? They have a winning record against lefties. They're 9-6. And the last time I checked, unless he switches arms today, Justin Steele is a lefty, and the Pirates are 9-6 against them. So I'll go ahead and take that spot today with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
The game goes at 7:40 Eastern. Small baseball card, but it's one of the nighttime games at 7:40 Eastern. Marco wearing his Willie Stargell throwback uniform. I was more of a Bill Matlock guy in the 80s, Marco. A little bit younger than you, but yeah, I like the look there. That's the old yellow 70s jersey. Ray, Matlock, some good hitters there with the Pirates. That's right. We are family. It's definitely the 70s. Let's move on to the Preakness. You know, we haven't talked horses this week, so I'm glad we have you on because I know you're a horse guy, a horse owner. And big scratch yesterday, right, with Afiva. One of the favorites is out, and it's a small field to start with, got even smaller. Kentucky Derby, one of the closest finishes ever. This is now the shortest race, always a smaller field before the Belmont. What are you doing with the Preakness this Saturday?
Well, I've got a horse that's intriguing. Long shot price. I mean, not super long, but 8-1. I'll take that. And we're going to take a look at number 8, Tuscan Gold. And this is one of those ones where, you know, looking and reading the form, this is a horse that is improving by leaps and bounds. He's only had 3 career starts. But I'm going to read a little more into just the racing form, and I'll tell you about the racing form. But let's start with the movements of the trainer. Chad Brown is the trainer of Tuscan Gold. He's also the trainer of Sierra Leone, the horse that finished second by a nose in the Kentucky Derby. Now, up until from the Kentucky Derby till the Preakness, until last weekend, he hadn't made his decision what he was going to do with Sierra Leone. He decided to skip the Preakness with Sierra Leone and point towards the Belmont in 3 weeks. When he made that decision, last Saturday, Tuscan Gold was entered in New York in the Peter Pan Stakes, which would have been a much easier race for Tuscan Gold. He decided to scratch Tuscan Gold out of the Peter Pan and move him to this race, the Preakness, this week. That's a bold statement from the trainer telling me that he likes Sierra Leone for the Belmont and he thinks Tuscan Gold is good enough to win the Preakness. Now, going back to his current form, this horse only has 3 career starts. He raced once as a 2-year-old. It was an educational race. He finished 4th in the race, and then they quit with him. He raced him in November just to get him that foundation at 2 and a little bit of experience. Rested him up for 2 months, brought him back to start his 3-year-old campaign, and broke his maiden right out of the gate, an easy win. Off of just a maiden victory, they put this horse in a stake race right off the bat, and he raced against some of the best. Catching Freedom was one of the horses he raced at in that race, and he only got beat a length in that, only his 3rd career start. Here's the key, though. We talk about pitchers going in and out of form in baseball and teams that you see them, you know, you look at their last so many games and you see improvement in the stats. The Bayer speed figures are one of the most sacred speed usages in horse racing. This horse in 3 career starts, his first race was a 65 Beyer figure. Second race was an 84. And then he jumped to a 95. This horse is gaining speed, experience by leaps and bounds. 95 puts him right there with these other horses. And the horse that won the Derby is the only horse in the race that has 2 triple-digit Beyers, 100 and 101. This horse is right there with only 3 career starts. If he takes one more step forward, which young horses do, this horse can light up the tote board. He's going to be in a smaller field, only 8 horses in this race. I look for Tuscan Gold to run huge on Saturday at a price.
Tuscan Gold at the plus price, 8-1 at the current odds for the Preakness Stakes this weekend. Marco, the Derby's a 20-horse race. The Preakness this year is an 8-horse race. Completely different handicap, correct? How do you deal with a bigger field versus a smaller field when you're talking about going through horse by horse and figuring out who has a chance to actually win this thing?
Well, it actually, when you have a smaller field, it's going to make it easier for horses that are deep closers, because we talk about so much in the Derby, you got to deal with the 20-horse field. You got traffic problems, things that can happen at the start of the race, getting banged with 20 horses trying to get down to the rail. So it's a more honest race. Now, the only problem is the Preakness Pimlico is a speed favoring track. If you let a horse get out on the lead and nobody contests him early, sometimes it's tough to run down the horse on the front end. And that's what happened last year with Bob Baffert's horse, National Treasure. They left him alone on the front end, and he went modest fractions, and then nobody was able to catch him in the stretch. But what I like about Tuscan Gold is he does have gate speed. He can sit just off the pace. He won't be too far back if it is a slower pace. Whereas the other horse in this race that I think is going to get a lot of attention is the horse that finished 4th in the Kentucky Derby, Catching Freedom. That's a horse that had to deal with a ton of traffic in the Kentucky Derby. Now he's only got 8 horses to navigate through. That's going to be the horse that I think is going to get over bet on Saturday. He's got a big shot Catching Freedom. And then, of course, don't forget Mystic Dan, the horse that won the Derby. If it rains on Saturday, Teddy, Mystic Dan, that helps his cause even more, because this horse ran his best race of his career, speed figure-wise, in the mud. And the forecast right now is rain on Saturday.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, Marco, 60% up in Pimlico, but I know here in Virginia, about 3 hours south, we have a washout this Saturday. We're definitely getting rain here, so I would say more likely than not they're getting rain as well. Yet another reason to get Marco's deep dive analysis on Derby Day, or Derby Day Preakness Day on Saturday. And Marco, you do have a special all-inclusive for this Saturday. Normally it's $39 for a one-day, but you have a $10 discount. Tell us about it.
Yeah, everybody that's watching today's show, I've got a coupon code for you. If you want to join me on Saturday, you'll get all my horse selections on Saturday, along with all of our sports plays. That's baseball, basketball, and hockey. $39. Use coupon code MD10. That's MD and the number 10. You'll get $10 off at checkout. And guys, we have just been rolling since January. We're up over $13,000 for our clients in all sports combined. It's been a tremendous 2024. Take advantage of it. Let's have some fun on Saturday and make some money with the Preakness. Get your freak on Saturday.
Get your preak on with Marco D'Angelo, horse expert, horse owner. He knows his horses. And once again, that's not just the Preakness, but it's every sport he has: baseball, basketball, hockey, all inclusive with an instant $10 discount, MD10, Medical Doctor 10, Marco D'Angelo on Saturday, WagerTalk.com. All right, Teddy, we talked some baseball. We talked some Preakness. We have NBA Game 6, Wolves, Nuggets, and WNBA coming up with Ronald Cabang in a moment. UFC Fight Night in Vegas coming up with Kyle Anthony. But I always kid with you that seems whenever you and I are doing the show together, the NFL finds a way to sneak in even in the middle of May. And the schedule came out yesterday. I know you're a huge NFL over-under season wins capper. You do extremely well with them. And you've always said you kind of wait until you see the schedule, right? And now it's go time.
Absolutely. I mean, the NFL schedule got released yesterday, and I'll tell you what, that release matters a lot. That to me is the start of the prep. the real start of the prep, because now we can really dive into the offseason. We have all the info. The schedule is out. The draft is over. The major free agents are signed. It's time to get to work. And of course, the NFL season win report, we start working right now. And as we get closer, I'm thinking probably late June, early July is what we're looking at for the NFL win report release this year. But as we get closer, as I start breaking this stuff down, we'll talk about exactly what date and what time that's going to be. Obviously, the long-term track record has been tremendous with the NFL season wins, and looking forward to another big year. Strength of schedule is a huge factor in my offseason NFL analysis. All right. Now, remember, strength of schedule, the mainstream numbers are garbage. They're going to tell you what the team's records were last year. Strength of schedule, the meaningful numbers, and I haven't fully completed this analysis yet, but I will. The meaningful numbers are based on this year's season win totals, not last year's records. But it's not just what opponents you play, it's what opponents win. Or when do you play them? Let me give you some examples. All right. Let's talk about the New York Football Jets. All right. As a team that has a pretty good break coming out of the gate. And of course, the Jets last year, the NFL's been trying to get the Jets. Last year, the Jets had the single best rest advantage in the NFL with Aaron Rodgers, and then Rodgers got hurt week 1. Well, this year, the Jets have, 6 national TV games? But look at the schedule to open. At San Fran, tough game opening night. Then they have Tennessee, New England, Denver, Minnesota. What do we got? Rookie quarterbacks are across the board there. Second-year QB in Tennessee. They have Buffalo at home, at Pittsburgh, at New England, Houston at home, at Arizona. The Jets are set up to have a monster start. The schedule is notably easy. Let's contrast that with, let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens. All right. The Ravens open. They got Kansas City, at Kansas, Vegas at home, at Dallas, then Buffalo, then Cincinnati. They got another stretch midseason where they got Cincinnati, at Pittsburgh, at the Chargers, and then the Eagles. They have a week 14 bye. That's tough. 2 brutal stretches for Baltimore. One at the beginning, one right before their bye. A late bye week. There are no breaks in between. Yeah, that's a tough slate for Baltimore, and it's tough right out of the gate. Worth noting. Let's take a look at the Chicago Bears for a moment. I picked out 4 schedules I wanted to discuss that really stood out to me. And there's more, but Chicago, rookie quarterback, trying to get his feet wet. There's some talent around him. How do they open? Tennessee, at Houston, at Indy, the Rams, Carolina, Jacksonville. That's a reasonable schedule. Washington, Arizona, New England. First 10 weeks, they have the bye week 7. The first 10 weeks are relatively easy for a team with a rookie QB trying to make some noise. So, look, the back half of the schedules, at Detroit, at San Fran, at Minnesota, over a 3-week span, and then Detroit at home. It's tough down the stretch. But Chicago really, this schedule says we're not betting the Bears under, because as they have a chance to come together, the schedule is likely to be fairly weak. So the Bears stand out in that regard. And last but not least, I want to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you're talking about a bet that makes sense, Pittsburgh not to make the playoffs stands out like a sore thumb. Just look at the back half of the campaign. Right after the bye, they travel to Washington, and then Baltimore, Cleveland, Baltimore, at Cleveland, at Cincinnati, Cleveland again, at Philly, at Baltimore again, Kansas City, and Cincy. Every one of those teams is lined as a playoff team. I think most of them are lined as 10-plus win teams. That is the toughest closeout schedule in the league. Doesn't matter how Pittsburgh starts. They ain't going to finish well. There. Some first thoughts on the NFL schedule release. There'll be much, much more as time goes by and as we get a chance to really dive into this stuff. But first thoughts, you got them.
Teddy covers, NFL expert, and once again, keep an eye out for his season over-under wins report. He said late June, early July, the next month or so. Consistent moneymaker for Teddy. Tie your money up a little bit, but it's an investment, and you get it back big time 4 or 5 months later. Ray D'Amico saying he agrees with you, Teddy, on the Bears. And a lot of the people in the chat also loving the great graphics that our producer Dan Alexander threw together there for the NFL schedule release. So some good content talking NFL mid-May. They always find a way to work their way into the discussion. I did a Sports Grid hit last night, and Joe Madden and Scott Wenzel were asking me briefly about it. I hadn't really looked at it yet, but they said, I guess Joe mentioned that the Christmas games were on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. And I made an over-under, Teddy. When will the Super Bowl? I said the college championship football has been on ESPN for a decade now, right? The NCAA tournament's been on TBS for a few years, not even CBS. What's your over-under? I was thinking about this more last night. Over-under, people in the chat, comment below as well in the replay. Over-under when the Super Bowl is not on free network TV. I make it over-under 10 years. Which way are you going, Teddy?
I'm taking over. No way, dude.
Over.
Because
my initial reaction was
the Super Bowl's
under, but I
about
started
advertising
thinking about
revenue. They want the
and it's
eyeballs.
The big seller to
they make their money off the ads.
each year.
You're not going to have to pay for it. Yeah. So, yeah,
well,
I'll
that's
take
a good
over.
point. Yeah, I mean, you're getting a couple million. You don't need to make a subscription. I just don't know if Netflix or Amazon could spend enough to steal it away, because it's also the deal with the networks is they get it every third year, and that's what keeps, CBS, Fox coming back and buying the packages basically to show the regular season as well. But once again, viewers in the chat, over under 10 years when the NFL will not be on one of the major free networks. Teddy is taken over. Comment in the chat, replay also the comments below. We read them, we reply back. Great breakdown of the NFL schedule release. All right, let's get back to some basketball. Ronald Cabang is here. Going to look at some WNBA in a moment. Also talk about a database. He has a matchup database and matchup reports you can use as well. But first, Ronald, we got to talk about this Game 6 tonight. Teddy does a wake up and win report. I do a daily NBA video, so we got some content already on the game. I'll be back at 4:15 Eastern with Joe Ranieri, breaking it down in depth. We'll be taking live questions also in the 4 o'clock hour. But, Ronald, I want to get your take on this. Game 6, T-Wolves Nuggets. 6 days ago, less than 1 week ago, Minnesota was a very minus 500 favorite to win this series. Is that not insane? 6 days ago. Yeah, and now they've lost 3 straight. Their back is to the wall. They haven't been able to stud. The best defensive team in basketball has allowed the Nuggets to shoot over 54% in 3 straight games. What are you doing with this game tonight? Really interesting matchup.
Yeah, for me, it's really tough from a side perspective. To me, I feel like you would want to see Minnesota bounce back here in some type of way. It seems like wherever they play, however they play in whatever matchup that goes, they're really strong defensively. The other piece of it is too, this matchup specifically has been a really slow paced matchup between these two teams. If you look at the last 3 games specifically, the Wolves, the reason why they struggle, they're actually struggling on both sides of the ball. They're both on the defensive side and on the offensive side of the ball. But some things that are leading to it is the fact that the Nuggets are creating a lot of turnovers, and they're getting a lot of points off of those turnovers, which in turn, obviously easy buckets for them. So it's tough for the Wolves to really get back and play some set defense in that aspect. But Jokic in general is just cooking the defensive player of the year. That opens up the perimeter, and that's the reason why, if you look at the last 3 games, the Nuggets have been really efficient from the 3, right? Whether it's the corner or above the break, they've been really efficient. The Wolves, after that game, after Game 5, you can kind of look at it and see they just look and sound defeated. Cat was hobbling off of the court. Ant's voice didn't have any confidence that he did within the first 2 games of the series in those post-game interviews. And from a trend perspective, so I'll try to put all this stuff together, but from a trend perspective, I look at round 2 specifically, Game 6s and 7s. They're typically under games, 24, 9, and 1 to the under during that time frame. And if you look at the road dogs in that situation, they're actually 8-5 straight up, 9-4 against the spread. So that kind of points towards the Nuggets to finish it off today. And dogs that are 4 or less are 3-0 straight up and against the spread. So just kind of breaking it down from the beginning to the end. This is a spot that maybe the Nuggets take care of business tonight. Jamal Murray and Mike Conley are both questionable in this game too, which is why, I kind of waited a little bit to play this game. I saw the number go down yesterday. I think it's come back up a little bit. I eventually took something on it, and I did take the Wolves team total under. I think this is a situation where whether they win or lose, cover or not, this is gonna be a slow-paced game, and Denver is gonna continue to play solid defense against them. So it's really up to the Wolves on how are they gonna stop the Nuggets offense.
Yeah, I had the under in Game 5. That was fun. Not. It looked good at halftime, but that third quarter was just a disaster where both teams
38
didn't
points,
miss.
yeah.
And but does Mike Conley matter for this at all? Conley's still listed as questionable. Does Conley playing or not playing have any effect on your opinion of A, whether you think Minnesota will be able to survive tonight, and B, whether their team total goes over or under? Is that an impactful injury in any way?
To me, I think just his experience, his leadership is huge on the court, right? Just being that guy that can lead this team as far as where to be in different situations. And as a point guard, that's kind of your role, right? Mike Conley is that guy. He's gonna tell people where to go. He's gonna bring that leadership, the effort on that side of the ball. Whenever things go down, he's that guy that goes to hand and just tell, hey, calm down and do this, do that, whatever it is. And those guys look up to him. So whether he's on the court or not, I think he still has that effect because he'll be on the bench and yelling out and all that stuff. But from a total aspect, I do think that he controls pace. He's one of those guys can make those clutch threes when they need it the most. So I do think that they would need him to win this game, right? For the most part. But when it comes to betting the team total on the Wolves under, I'm not too sure that it does affect that part of it. The outcome, yes, win or loss. I definitely do think that he makes an impact. But from a betting perspective, no.
Really interesting move.
Team total, yeah. From a team total perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of the game total, though, it's been a really interesting move. Yesterday afternoon, I started analyzing this game, and I've seen, it's gone from 204.5 down to 204. I do my video late last night, which gets posted this morning, and it had gone down to 203. And now it's back up to 205. Jamal Murray was listed as questionable. I expected him to play. So maybe this has something to do with the injuries as well. Conley, if you look at his net numbers on and off the court this year, it's been pretty neutral for the T-Wolves. But the total definitely been jumping around. But like Ronald said, these elimination games, 6s and 7s, especially quality teams, have trended under in recent years. All right, Ron, great talking NBA, but the WNBA started as well this week. It's going to probably be the biggest and most bet WNBA season in history. So many legal sports books around the country, and obviously Caitlin Clark factor. It's funny. The Wizards are a couple hours north of me, and I went and checked prices the other day to see, when the key teams are coming here. Not surprising when they play the Aces in it's June. It's on a Saturday. It's like 150 is the cheapest ticket already. The Indiana game's in the hundreds, but Chicago's actually the most expensive ticket in a lot of markets, which I think would surprise some people. I thought you'd find that interesting. The Chicago Sky, obviously, with the LSU rookie, also getting a lot of love. Give us your thoughts on the WNBA, how you handicap it compared to the NBA, and then we have a huge game tonight. We get Caitlin Clark's Fever at home against Liberty, national TV. Yeah,
for me, there is a transition from NBA to WNBA. They do. I mean, it's a different style of game. Obviously, it's basketball, right? But the style of play is a lot different. In the WNBA, I think you want to take advantage of size and how they can affect the paint area, right? Whether it's offense or defense, because I think as much as there is some hype behind Caitlin Clark and Sabrina's who can shoot the three ball, it's not a consistent shot that a lot of WNBA players can do, and especially from the power forward and center position. So I think paint protection and points in the paint is really important here. You also want to key in on players who can take over games, right? Breanna Stewart's, the Asias. Yesterday you seen Ryan Howard. These types of players on these teams. You want to key in on those types of players as well. So I think for the most part, I mean, a lot of things are the same, right? The game is the same, but the style of play is different. You have to differentiate between the two.
So let's talk Liberty and Fever for tonight. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. I'm seeing Liberty taking money. 8.5s popping up on the board. There's a 9 out there. No, that just got bet down. It was a 9 out there momentarily, but it was an off-market number, and it's gone. 168.5, 169 the total for this. How do you break down the Liberty and the Fever?
Yeah, obviously, Steve mentioned the hype behind Caitlin Clark, and obviously she's huge for the W, but I think she still needs to make that transition to pro ball. I think you saw that game against the Sun in game 1. I had the Sun, and the under in that one, just expecting the team to have some early struggles. And obviously, the Sun are one of the best defensive teams in the league, right? And Caitlin Clark's inexperience and the target on her back, that kind of led her to turning the ball over 10 times in that game against the Sun. I didn't expect 10 turnovers, but I did expect her to struggle in that aspect. The Liberty, in my opinion, I think their defense is, obviously they're one of the better teams in the league. They're one of the more known teams in the league because of the players that they have. But defensively, I think they struggle to stop guards. And that kind of showed last season, especially in the playoffs. But I think Caitlin Clark's going to have a better and more efficient offensive game today. So that part, obviously scoring is not going to be an issue for her. She did score 20 points. She's not going to have an issue with that. But I think the Sun and the under in that game was the right play just because of how physical that team is. The Liberty's guards are not physical. I think Caitlin Clark, like I said, is going to have a great offensive game. I think that the Liberty this season is a better matchup for the Fever. The Liberty's defense with Sloot, she's a lot slower. She's a lot smaller. And some of the other players too. I think if they go and have someone like Laney or Thornton to guard her, that's going to open up stuff for the bigs that they have, Boston and Nalissa Smith. And I think a lot of people really expect Aaliyah Boston to have a big upside with Caitlin Clark coming into play. But I think Nalissa Smith has the bigger upside. She's able to spread the court, hit the three ball, and also score in the paint as well. So for me, I think Nalissa Smith is really the second player, not Aaliyah Boston. And in my opinion, I think Stewie, she couldn't get in rhythm in game one against the Mystics, but I think she bounces back in a huge way here. I'm not expecting a big 40-point game or whatever, but I think she'll have a better opportunity. She only put up 9 shots in game one. I think they're going to have to turn that around, give her more opportunity there. The second unit is a problem for me with the Liberty. Maureen Johannes is not there anymore. I think their defense on the second unit is even worse. So for me, Fever's energy tonight is going to be what puts them in position to cover and get this one go over as well.
Yeah, and as you're talking about this game, if you look at the WagerTalk live odds screen, it is literally lighting up side and total. It's up to -8. It was 7.5 a few minutes ago. It opened as low as 5.5. The Liberty getting some money. Total's been bouncing around. Opened 173.5 down to 68.5. Now it's back up to 169. So both side and total 12:30 Eastern are lighting up on the live odds screen, and the WNBA is on the WagerTalk live odds screen. And Ronald, I want to quickly ask you about your database, also your matchup database, that you have a new website. Not only does it have MLB, NBA, of course, but you also have WNBA. So if someone is looking for a way to handicap these games, themoneyballer.com, not a bad spot to go to.
Yeah, to me, it's like a handicapper's playground. You can see a lot of things there. I think most people who handicap games, you have multiple sources. You have a database. You have a lines odds page. You have stats. You have trends and all that stuff. And we kind of put that into one spot. So you can see trends, recent form, filterable season stats, situational notes based on schedule, historic matchup results, statistical interactions. So like in the MLB, you have starting pitchers' last 5 results. You have their advanced metrics, their FIP, their XFIP, all that stuff, all in one spot. So that kind of brings, before when I was handicapping games, depending on the sport, I would have 5 to 10 different pages up at one time. And now it's really just down to one. I use this every single day. This month alone, if my subscribers would know this, I've profited 11 of the last 15 days within this month alone, just using this site by itself. Like I said, it's a new site. We've only been 3 or 4 weeks up, but we continue to make it better. We listen to the handicappers, what they want to see, how they want to break down games, and we add those features. We try to do it as quick as possible, but right now we've gotten in a really good place. So like I said, themoneyballer.com, everything that you need in one spot to handicap a game, whether it's NBA, WNBA, or MLB. NFL is going to be obviously ready by the time it comes.
I can't endorse Ronald yet, but I'm going to have to get an ID from him so I can start endorsing your site. But I got to use it first. It does look awesome, though. And it's a pretty good idea. And I know Teddy and I agree with the shows. It'd be fantastic as well. Ronald, what else you got going on at WagerTalk? 4-1 start, WNBA, NBA. What you got going this weekend?
Yeah, NBA, WNBA, MLB, all doing really well right now. And I know there's a promo up for me right now for the WNBA specifically, since I was number one last season. Off to a strong start, like Steve said, 4-1-1 to start the WNBA season. The crazy thing is that loss and the push happened in the last possession of each one of those games. So I could, technically, I was feeling really good about it. I was hoping I could be like undefeated, but obviously the season's gonna go on. We'll have these losses that happen that way, but WNBA is my thing right now, and I'm really keyed in on it. So take over that back. I think it's like the full season and then the rest of the NBA playoffs for the price of the WNBA season.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Buy the WNBA season from Ronald. You get the rest of the NBA playoffs included for free. Ronald Cabang, WagerTalk.com. All right, Teddy, we're going to look at a little baseball here in a moment before we get to the UFC Fight Night. Kyle Anthony, fight expert, is going to be on in a moment to break down 2 fights in Vegas this weekend in the UFC Fight Night. But we're going to look at Dodgers-Reds for your big game breakdown. And, Teddy, this is where we thought the Dodgers would be when the season began, right? 29-16, laying over 300. What are you doing with this game tonight?
Yeah, the Dodgers, they opened $3 favorites against the Cincinnati Reds, and they've been bet up in this ball game. Sharp money. This isn't the public. Sharp money thinks the Dodgers were worth laying 3-1 against Cincinnati. Now I'm seeing as high as minus 330 on the Wager Talk live odds screen. 320, the prevailing number. Total has been bet down from 8 to 7.5. I like the under. I'm going to make a case for the under here. And really debating full game under versus Reds team total under. I wouldn't argue with splitting your wager between the two. I don't think Cincinnati's going to score a whole lot tonight, to put it mildly. I mean, it's been a real bad road trip for the Reds. They didn't play well before the road trip. 13 May games, 35 runs scored for Cincinnati. Their high output's been 6 during this span. No offensive outburst games. And they've averaged less than 3 runs per game. Scored just a single run in Arizona yesterday. And now they're going against Tyler Glasnow, who is no joke. And it's Tyler Glasnow with an extra day of rest. And it's Tyler Glasnow with an extra day of rest. And basically the Dodgers' entire bullpen behind him is rested and ready. After they brought up a couple of guys yesterday, they ended up pitching the whole game for L.A. So Cincy's lineup's not working. They're going up against an ace. The bullpen behind the ace is ready. I don't think the Reds are going to score a whole lot tonight. Cincy team tunnel 2.5. No argument with the under. That being said, Dodgers aren't exactly tearing the cover off the ball right now. They had one good game in San Fran, but shut down again last night. Couldn't get a hit with runners in scoring position. Left a whole lot of men on base. Ohtani and Betts at the top of the lineup are hitting. The rest of the lineup, not so much. So you want to go full game under 7.5. No argument here. The sharp money's poured in that direction already. Reds team total under. They both make a whole lot of sense to this better. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Once again, that Reds team total is 2.5 to the under. The game total is 7.5 to the under. Teddy covers big game breakdown, MLB style. All right, we've talked some basketball, horses, baseball. Let's talk some UFC. Fight Night is in Las Vegas this weekend, and we have our fight expert from WagerTalk.com to break it down. Kyle Anthony, welcome to the show. Start me off with an underdog. Give me an underdog that has some value this Saturday.
All right, so we're going to talk the main event of the evening, and that is between Edson Barboza and Lerone Murphy. Now, both of these guys are predominantly going to be strikers. They're guys that want to go out there, sling the leather, and that's kind of been their path. But I do think there is a situation here where we're going to be seeing a lot of wrestling, or maybe not a lot, but we're going to see some here. You do see Lerone Murphy mixing it up a little bit more over his last 2 fights, had 4 takedowns. He even had in his last fight against Josh Kulabau, he went 3 for 4 on takedowns, 8 minutes of control time. So he definitely starting to utilize that, slow down his opponents, and just really mix it up. Now, a lot of guys don't want to really stand and bang with Edson Barboza, elite level kickboxer, all these great things, but also the fact that, Edson does have a 75% takedown defense rate. I do think that can hold up here, so I do think this could play out more on the feet. And the one thing about that is that also that it Barbosa will have the advantage on the feet, but I also think he can offensively wrestle here. He was 3 for 4 on takedowns in his last fight against Sadiq Youssef, and you also add in that Murphy was taken down 10 times in his last 3 fights. So there is some type of vulnerability there, and Barbosa could mix that up. Now, the other part here is on the feet, and I absolutely give the advantage to Edson Barbosa. I know it's the aging guy here. I know that there's that whole storyline being the older guy and all these things, but I think that is his, absolutely has the advantage. We're talking about a kickboxing arsenal, his foot, his movement, his distance management. I mean, all these things really kind of go towards him, where the big issue for me on, the Murphy side is really going to be he just has low volume at times. He can be a guy that's very risk adverse, that's going to work at range and then come back into striking range and then work back out and work back in. And at times that can work for him. But I think a guy like Barbosa, who can look to level change in certain spots here, a guy that can throw great strikes standing and mix it up a little bit more than I think than Murphy can. And then also, lastly, you look at the strength of schedule here, and I think it's always something worth looking at. And Barbosa, we know what he's done over the last 10 years to spot some of the best guys in the division, and won some, lost some, but has definitely looked good. But you look at really, what Murphy has fought here. This guy is really supposed to be the next big thing, undefeated prospect, and he had some debatable fights. Gabriel Santos, this was a fight I actually thought he lost, and he ended up eking that fight out, gets the victory there. Makwan Amirkhani, he lost the first round and then comes back and does win, so credit to him there. But even the fight against Douglas Silva de Andrade, I'm not that high on him at all. That was another low volume, very, very close fight. So in this spot here, this is a big step up in competition for Murphy. I think that Edson has all the advantages when you're talking about the striking on the feet, the volume pushing forward. So I do like Edson Barbosa at that short underdog number there.
I wasn't sure if you were going to be able to give analysis without Prez buttering you up and telling you how beautiful you are before you start.
This is smoother. This is smoother.
Yeah. It's odd with the Prez not flirting with you throughout the course of your segment. That being said, you talked about making the case for the live dog here. Why is he a dog? You made 15 cases that this guy's the better fighter. What is it about Murphy that's attracted the betting attention that makes him the favorite?
I really do think it's an age thing. There's definitely an age gap here. And, you've got the sexy 13-0 number. You've got the guy that's, looks like the UFC may be trying to push a little bit, all those things. But I just don't see it either. For me, I think it's really a big, when you're talking about just advantages, is really on the Barbosa side. So for me, I do think that the public likes, the undefeated guys. You definitely see that throughout where, undefeated, people like to put money on them. And I think that's kind of why this line's moving. But I think a lot of the advantages really do go with Barbosa here.
It's Kyle Anthony voted the best looking man at WagerTalk.com by the Prez. It was a one-man vote, but we'll leave it.
One-man vote.
You're in a safe space this week. It's Prez free zone. Kyle is safe. He's safe. He's in a safe space. All right, Kyle, you gave us a small dog there. There's another fight that has a very competitive price. Williams and Harris should be one of the more even matchups as well. What are you doing in that one?
Yeah, so we've got Chaos Williams. He's around minus 125 on the comeback there. You've got Carlston Harris. He's plus 105. Now, you've got Chaos. He's a guy that's going to come forward. He is aggressive, very explosive overall. On the other side, you've got Carlston Harris, who's really going to look to grapple. And that, to me, is his win condition here, is going to be looking to grapple, looking for takedowns, looking to use his jiu-jitsu, top control, threaten submissions. That's going to be his game here. You see what he did recently. Jeremiah Wells goes out there, wins the first 2 rounds, and even with that and the momentum going in that fight, Harris finds the submission, gets that in there, and then even fight prior to that against Jared Gooden, even there he had 5 takedowns, got control time, and got the victory. But the issue for me on the Harris side is the physicality. I think that there's going to be a big issue here when you're looking at just the strength and the physicality of Chaos Williams. He has a solid takedown defense. I think that his movement is going to be a problem. The takedown defense is going to be there, create space, find opportunities to counter. And you have Harrison, who has a 29% takedown success rate, not very good, when I really do believe in this particular spot, that's going to be really where his win equity is going to be. And also just Harris, not only does he lack the ability, but I just think he doesn't set up these takedowns very well. He doesn't disguise them. He doesn't put shots in front of them to really look to level change. So I do think that can be a problem here. But if this fight does play out on the feet, I really give a massive advantage here to Chaos Williams. I think he can create that space, land the bigger shots. He's the better striker overall. He throws really good low kicks, chops at the leg very well. I think that overall, Harris looks like a fish out of water when he's on the feet, very sloppy, throwing combinations out of position, and I really don't think many of those things work out well for him. And then also, you got it in that, Williams has a high volume. He really puts out a good volume, really throws a lot of strikes. If you look at even just, average-wise, Chaos averages 6 strikes landed per minute, while you have Harris averaging a little under 3 strikes landed per minute. So I think that this is a spot where Chaos Williams can defend the takedowns, land the more damaging shots, even possibly find a finish here on the feet. I think that's going to be there with the lackluster defense that Harris does have. So I do like Chaos Williams minus 125. I think is a good number here to get the job done.
Expect chaos in the undercard on UFC Fight Night Saturday night here in Las Vegas. Chaos Williams minus 125 is a fight that Kyle Anthony is looking at very, very closely. Kyle, you're plus 44 units in 2024. You profited 12 out of the last 14 MMA events. You got a 25% ROI during that span. Clearly, you've delivered the goods for the clients of late. Tell us about what you have going this weekend.
Yeah, so this weekend, we cashed a 4% last weekend. Right now, we're on an 11-2 run on 4% plays and has looked really good. Have a 4% play up this weekend as well. As always, I normally look for about 4 or 5 positions to place my money on. So feeling good about it. Have 2 spots here, and we're going to make this, we're going to keep this streak going.
It's Kyle Anthony, fight expert, MMA, UFC expert, WagerTalk.com. And Kyle also posts a ton of free UFC plays, so check out his page every week for a free play as well. Speaking of free plays, every capper puts them up. I've got a free baseball play for tonight. Check out my page, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. Teddy's also got best bets and free plays every day on his page as well. Once again, his Wake Up and Win report is up for this morning. And don't forget my NBA breakdown for T-Wolves Nuggets, full depth analysis, about a 12-minute video is here as well. So hit subscribe and hit that bell for instant alerts. A lot of free play videos for baseball today as well. Comment below on the YouTube replay. We read the comments, we reply back. And quick, thumbs up, like, half a second. Do it. Thumbs up, like goes a long way to keeping the content free and plentiful here on Wager Talk TV. Teddy, I enjoyed being with you on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Andy Lang will be joining me tomorrow and Friday to finish out the week. You have a great time with the Prez at the Spear, seeing the dead. I'm looking forward to hearing a recap next week when you guys are back on Monday. So safe travels to the Strip. Safe travels with the Prez. Enjoy the show and take us home.
Yeah, I get to do something fun. I never do anything fun. So hopefully we'll have a little fun tomorrow because I spent a whole lot of time sitting at this very desk working on sports. So this is the time of year that if you're going to look, no problem. I'm going to go out and enjoy myself tomorrow. That being said, I'll be back on Monday. Wager Talk Today will be back tomorrow. Steve Merrill and Andy Lang. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy the games and best of luck with all your bets. Cheers.